Cool. Love. I thought I'll start the session with a bit of love itself. So, so that's why strategically I chose you.
Awesome.
Uh, so I'm very excited to try this out, tell each one's story on their journey so far, go a little bit personal also, and not just the professional journey.
Right.
Uh, I'd love to pick your brains in terms of how your career shaped up. I have a couple of questions for you, and I'd love for people to know you also much better, so
Yeah.
that people get to know what an amazing person that you could actually be, to reach out to and understand a lot more things from product perspective, and maybe even just connect with you from an individual perspective, right?
Of course. Of
uh,
course. Of
yeah,
course.
cool.
Amazing initiative, you two. Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about doing this. I
Yeah.
want to reach out to all 42 people. It'll be nice to reconnect with everybody.
Yeah. Good
uh,
number, by the way, 42.
Yeah, even I was like very surprised when I was starting to do that list. I was like, wow, this is just it's a massive number.
Yeah.
Great. Love, firstly, why don't you talk to me a little bit about your journey into product management? Why product management? What made you choose product management?
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, right from my very first job, right? So, I started my career actually as a software developer. I was
Okay.
actually not very interested in writing the code, right? So, I was more interested in understanding what the real problem that we were solving, why we solving the problem, and what was the actual problem. And instead of just thinking about what was the solution given to me as
Yeah.
the software developer, I was like, hey, can we think about something else, right?
Yeah.
So I think it and maybe I'd started programming, so I'm like a bit OG. So I'd started programming on a Windows application way back in 2009-10. So um, so at that point in time, product management was not really the big thing it is right now. So um, one and I went to B school, understood more about fintech, understood more about product management, and found this opportunity in a startup at that point in time called Lending Card. That's where my product management journey started. and
Nice.
and understood that I could make a lot more impact that way, right? So understanding user needs, and then figuring out I was good at tech, right? So I understood how systems work and how can I sort of make them, tie them all together to solve that problem. So that really gave me a huge amount of cake, and I thought that, hey, this is what I
Yeah.
really want to do for the rest of my life, right? And
Nice.
then sort of joining Capital Float gave me that uh, next level of growth in that particular domain. So I just continued.
And next, where did you go after Capital Fruit?
So yeah, so my Capital Fruit journey was very great. Like spent
Yeah.
about 3.5 years with you and the rest of the amazing folks there, learning quite a bit. Actually, learned my ropes really at Capital Fruit about product management. Started off with doing a lot of these internal tools, internal products, and went into doing actual customer facing stuff, onboarding customers and all of that. From there, I went to Experian. That was a bit of a shift in gears, more of PMing on the SaaS side, B2B SaaS side. All of the products that we had built at Capital Float, the TORs and the collection systems and all of that, right? I could now figure out a way to finally expose them out to other customers, right? So how can I build a technology that banks, etc., can use to actually do their product
Yeah.
portfolio? And there were a couple of other interesting things happening over there. We
Hmm.
did a lot of work on Experian, of course, as a bureau, and Experian also wants to do a bit more than just being a bureau. So we were looking at how we can do something with alternate data. Uh, so yeah, so that was the next journey, more of learning the ropes at Capital Float, you can say, and then sort of figuring out how to into that more of leadership space and product on in Experience.
So is it fair to say you built a lot of products for B2B initially over the first few years, and then now you move to a B2C role?
Actually, it's been a mix of the two. So at Capital Flow it was mostly, and Lending Card mostly internal tools to begin with. Then
Sure.
a lot of products for SMEs. That
Yeah.
was the segment, and so building products for BNPL, right?
Mm.
So that was really cool. In Experian, it was purely B2B, right? So purely enterprise, and then we forayed into B2B to C with with alternate credit scoring and all. And then
Mhm.
now at Taza Pay, it's again back to consumer facing. Consumers, of
Yeah.
course, our consumers happen to be SMEs, and
Mhm.
again large enterprises. So again, it's a mix of B2C and B2B2C. So
So, look, why don't you talk to me a little bit about? I'd love to learn a little bit about Taza Pay, what you guys are doing, what's the
yeah,
product here.
yeah. So at Taza Pay, we are trying to, basically being very audacious.
Mm.
Payments essentially is a ubiquitous thing. Taza Pay is essentially a payments company. So
Hmm.
payments is a very ubiquitous thing, especially in geographies now like India, Southeast Asia, even the West now. That making P2P payments, P2M payments is
Yeah.
very ubiquitous and commoditized, right? But when you think about making a payment cross border, either for
Yeah.
P2M use case or a B2B use case, that's still very complicated, right? So
Yeah.
businesses find it very hard to make payments across borders, and especially when you want to do it in a checkout scenario, that's
Hmm.
even harder, right? So
Yeah. Right.
that's area is still dominated by wire transfers,
Yeah.
LCs, these very clunky sort of old school methodologies.
School use.
So that's,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's what we are trying to figure out, that can we make cross border payments as ubiquitous as domestic P2P payments are, right? It's a very
Nice.
big problem statement to pick up, and the
Mm.
solution is also can be very crazy at times. So that's
Yeah.
what we are trying to do, building that global network of local collect and local disburse capabilities, but to
Interesting.
our users, making it very very simple, that hey, come
Yeah.
in, no code, and start creating payment links, or come in and do a end-to-end bespoke API integrations one time, and then you can
Interesting.
launch in any market where you want to launch, right? So
Very interesting. So, how big is the team? Obviously, you've grown from an APM role to now leading product management team. So,
yeah,
talk to me a little bit about how did
yeah.
that shape up? Yeah.
Yeah. The team is basically the thing that I'm most proud of at Thaza Pay,
Mm.
right? So we're working with an amazing set of founders, amazing set of other people,
Mm.
50 people strong now,
Oh,
with
wow.
three folks in the design team, and five PMs. Uh,
Nice.
so, finally getting all of us together, and uh, finding that initial shoots of green shoots of product market fit. So
Yeah.
it makes it very cool to build something together, and then grow together as well. So of
Yeah.
course, as a payments company, and when you are integrating with enterprise grade folks and
Mm.
SMEs
Mm.
alike, people expect that hey, you should have things like Stripe, you should have API docs as expensive as Razorpay has, and all of that. So we need a good team, and that's
Yeah.
where I feel personally we have done very well,
Great.
getting a nice set of people together to solve this extremely audacious problem.
I'll come back to this team question. I have a lot more to probe there,
Oh,
but
yeah, sure.
first we'll address it from a product management perspective.
Yeah,
Would love. I know obviously you've worked on multiple different products over the years with Lending Card, Capital Float, Experian, Pay. Pick one product which even till date you're like really proud of. You build this platform or this product out, which has created some impact in the market. And what is your biggest learning or takeaway that you would like people to also who want to venture out into product management or in product management to keep that aspect in mind, maybe one message to them.
got it. Well, that's a very interesting question and very hard to pick
Yeah,
one, right? So
exactly, I'm
build
sure.
build quite a few
Yeah.
over the years, a lot at Capital Float. So we built, I remember, our unsecured business loan onboarding for SMEs
Mm.
at Capital Float, which I was very proud of, and I contributed to the BNPL product as well, which is
Mm.
like now literally everywhere
Yeah.
via Capital Float. So those were two amazing products, but like, obviously as PMs, you obviously keep trying to one up yourself and
Yeah,
do
absolutely.
better.
Yeah.
So the product that now I'm most proud of is of course my Taza Pay product, which is like the payment links thing, right? So the problem that we were solving there was that hey, as as an SME or as a company, I want to collect payments from customers. They're all over the place. How can I do that? I don't want to code, right? I don't want to integrate with you. So, and what do you have about the buyer? I just know where his country is, what his country is, and what his email is. So we just built a product around that. We just allowed them to just create a very simple payment link using the country of the buyer and the whatever amount and the currency that they would prefer the buyer to pay in, and just send them a link, and all of the options for payment. That's where we kicked in. All of the options that we presented for payment were very localized, right? So you send the payment link to a American buyer, you'll get US ACH options, credit card options localized to the US. You send the same payment link to a buyer in Singapore, he or she will get Pay Now QR as the payment options. You send it to an Australian, he'll get Poly. You send it to an European, you'll get SEPA. So we essentially just one product, and you are set to cover customers in all markets. So that really took off, right? And that's where we have like a couple of really cool enterprise integrations also of the same product that we are now very proud of.
So how do you find the use case for this? Like, what was the
so we actually just stumbled into this use case, right? We very honest. So we started off by solving the problem of trust in cross-border payments, right? So and to do that, we thought that, hey, let's probably try being a third-party escrow provider, right? So we'll accept payments on behalf of a seller. We'll keep the payment safeguarded, and only when the seller delivers or ships, that's when we release the payment to seller. So both seller and buyer are protected. Seller sees the money, buyer knows that, hey, my money is safe till the time I get the shipment. So that was the initial use case. But of course, like the problem of trust is very important, a very important problem to solve, and therefore our escrow product also has legs. It's not like we don't see traction, but like of course, when people really like that product, they say like, hey, I want to switch everything over to you, right? So I want to have the exact same use case even for people I already trust, right? I don't need escrow for a person that I have been trading with for the last 2-3 years. I just need a cheaper and more effective payment collection method. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's when we sort of became a bit, all of us in our team, like we became very entrepreneurial. Hey, how can we sort of leverage what we have already built? We don't need protection here. We just need to move the money from point A to point B. How can we charge them less? How can we make the user experience much more simpler? Because there is no agreement between two parties here. One party just needs to collect money from another party. So that's when we sort of essentially toned down our existing product, added some bells and whistles to make it, compliant and streamlined to accept and release payments. And that's when we started. The graph shows a literal hockey stick after we launched that payment product, right? So because all of our escrow customers essentially overnight migrated to all of their other payments to us as well.
It's so amazing to just still see the entrepreneurial gene in you. I've seen that right from day one, and it's good to that gene is still going.
It has been I can say that very proudly now. 3.5 years with you as my manager, you have cultivated that. So
and not just me, I think it's just your self-motivation. But amazing. I think having that same rigor, passion to solve problems, very, very key for product managers. I want to come back to team, right? Like, what is your philosophy that you drive with your team? I'd love to learn or understand how does you groom your team now to get to the next level. What's your message to aspiring product managers out there? How do they get into product management? Or how do they be? Actually, I'll rephrase that. How does one be part of your team now?
Oh yeah, wow. So I'll break that down into two. So I'll start with what philosophy we all follow in our team, right? So one is that one message which our founder Rahul keeps on parroting, and really has become second nature to me as well. That having that pride in our craft is very important, and for a PM, it's understanding what your craft really is also, right? So initially when I had just joined, and I was a very APM analyst kind of a product manager. At that point in time, it was like I thought product management was like writing the best kind of specs, right, and
Specs. Yeah.
explaining it to engineers, right. But now I've come to realize that's not really what we do, right. So
Yeah.
I've now essentially redefined product management for myself and my team to be three things. One is problem identification, right.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing we need to be really, really good at. That's one thing which I got really good at Capital Float as well. Identify the right problems to solve. The solutions we can iterate upon.
Yeah.
That's not really going to hold you back.
Correct.
Then secondly, alignment, achieving alignment. Um, you know, obviously you will have an idea of, okay, hey, this is the problem I have identified. This is the problem that we should be solving. But unless and until you have buy-in from all stakeholders, you won't really solve that problem as a team. So then
Yeah.
that second superpower or the second responsibility also that a PM has is to ensure that we have alignment from everyone, obviously from the management stakeholders, but also from your engineers, right? So if you
Yeah.
don't and your designers, so if you don't align everyone to that story,
Yeah.
the people are not going to be motivated to solve that problem for you, or solution your problem areas, right? So that's second.
Yeah.
And the third thing is, of course, prioritization,
Yeah.
because we don't have infinite engineering capacity, design capacity, product capacity as well. So we always have to pick our battles. So
Or even
those are
time.
the things. Yeah, exactly. And time. So
Yeah.
I just basically, myself and the team which we have, we just basically just try to pick our battles, right? So
Yeah.
this is what we are doing right now. This is the problem area that we have identified. This is the alignment that we have on that, and let's because this is the priority, that's why we should do it, right? And this is
Nice.
creating the biggest bang for buck. So those are the three things. And for people who are aspiring to be PMs or joining your team, my team, I think my 2 cents to them will be that I honestly don't look for credentials. I honestly do
Sure.
not look for while hiring PMs for Taza Pay also, I've not looked for people who have already had payments
Yeah.
experience or who've already
Absolutely.
had experience in this domain at all, right? So
Yeah.
I just feel that if you have the one right attitude, even if you are not experienced, and you have the right attitude to think about these three things properly, then you can do well anywhere, right? So
Yeah.
that's one. And the second thing is just like you have to be a bit more first principles in your thinking. I think that
Yeah.
has been parroted around quite a bit. So
Mm.
my definition of first principles is that obviously there is a way of doing everything in the world right now, but
Yeah.
if that way or the best practice was what everyone could adopt, then we would not have startups, right? We
Yeah.
are starting up and we are disrupting because we are essentially thinking about the problem very deeply and thinking about what are the issues that are facing us, and then trying to solve it at the very root,
Right.
right? So if you have the right attitude and if you are thinking first principles, then I
Yeah.
think you'll find a PM role very, very easily.
Great. Great. I think there's a lot of info there for anyone aspiring to be part of your team at Tazapay now.
Yeah, of course,
And
of
I would
course.
I would recommend anyone who listen into this to come be part of your team.
Thanks, UT. I'll share this everywhere.
Uh, do you have any recommendations in terms of books, podcasts, which aspiring PMs or just maybe even individuals to read? Like it could be leadership books, it could be self-help book. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what your tastes in books are. So,
Uh,
any top 2, 3 books that you would ask people to read?
Yeah, so my favorite PM book, it's not even a PM book, honestly, but
Hmm.
with like I remember in Capital Float, we had Manoj and Tushar, who were like our decision science counterparts. So
Yeah.
Manoj had recommended a book to me called Nudge, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thaler Sunstein.
Aware of it. Yeah.
Amazing book, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure quite a lot of people in product
Yeah.
would have already read it. So that's
Hmm.
just like a book which I keep going back to, right? So uh, that creating that mentality, and you just have you can't really talk to your user, yeah, right, through
Yeah.
your product has to talk to the user.
Yeah.
So creating a product in a manner that essentially makes it akin to you talking to the
Hmm.
user is what I've learned from that book.
Sure.
Create the right incentives, create the right nudges, and make the things very easy for people to get to the next stage. So yeah, I would recommend that book. So that's my one recommendation, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, of course, there are so many things,
So
but
many, of course. Yeah.
yeah, one recommendation for this
Sure.
discussion for sure.
Any podcasts? Are you a fan of podcasts as such?
I listen sporadically, but nothing which I follow from a series perspective. I
Mm.
read a lot of, I follow a lot of, really cool PMs. I follow Sachin, Reiki from
Sure.
Notejoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, of course, people should be following you, right?
Mm.
And,
You don't write or I don't talk much, so
I follow Shreyas Doshi, his tweets,
yeah, yeah.
amazing guy.
He's amazing. He's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really writes well. So
Mm.
Sachin also writes really good blogs.
Yeah.
And there's this guy Anuj Khemka,
Yeah.
from Aspire, probably my age, but like really
Mm.
has built an amazing set of products for Aspire. So
Sure.
really keep following him as well.
Got it.
Secretly, he doesn't know.
Okay. It will be public soon.
Oh yeah, right.
Great. Uh, any red flags that you evaluate uh, in people or companies or any aspect of even in your personal life, right? Like it's like a strict no, and you feel people should evaluate things also with those lens when they take up any new professional opportunity.
That's a very good one. So companies, teams, I think,
Mm.
um, you know, I really don't like to work in places, or I don't really like to work with people where, there is essentially like two things which I really like about cultures where I have worked and have been fortunate enough to work. One is, uh, getting that opportunity to make mistakes, right? So
Yeah,
nobody is going to be perfect the first time, and
yeah,
startups, I know you have to uh, uh, be really precise, but at the same time, unless you are experimenting and making mistakes, I don't think you're going to grow.
yeah,
So
yeah,
startups which don't create that culture where people are comfortable doing stuff, experimenting, and therefore obviously as a result of it probably making some mistakes here and there,
yeah,
I think those are fairly toxic environments to be avoided. And
yeah,
two, uh, you know, obviously startups can, and I'm saying startups because that's been most of our journey,
yeah,
uh, where the founder personality is too big. I think
yeah.
that just stifles innovation, right? So
Sure, sure.
founders have a very important role to play in a startup. Of course, they need to be doing fundraising, they need to be doing, they need to be hiring, they need to be
Yeah,
doing morale boosting at the company. But they shouldn't really, impose their own personality on the
yeah.
on the startup. So
I totally
those
hear
are
you.
two big red flags for me, right?
Yeah,
Fortunate enough that, okay, all of the people that I've worked with
yeah, yeah.
have been very far away from those red flags.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But also just the fact that you've been part of Sazone Capital Scout program. You work.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
you've seen a lot of startups. So
Yes, yes, yes,
I can totally
exactly,
understand where you're coming from. So
exactly.
we've talked a little bit about you from a product management mindset. We talked a little bit about you from a team growing mindset. We've spoken about your journey. I want to get a little personal with you. I
Sure.
know a little bit about you, where you're extremely passionate about Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah. I am.
So if you ever had this is a fun question. Like if you ever had the opportunity to build a product for Arsenal Football Club, have you ever thought about what product you'll build for them?
Yeah, okay, that's a very good question, right? So that's like, now this is getting into the product management interview arena, right? So
So this is combining interest area and two interest areas, right? Your product
right.
management interest area and Arsenal Football Club. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
combine the two.
Oh, very cool question, Niti. So
Mm.
let's try and understand what are the problem areas that Arsenal has,
Yeah.
right? So Arsenal has been my favorite team because they've always been essentially underdogs, at least since I
Mm.
started following them, right? So they
Yeah.
were invincibles. But then when I started following them, they essentially became underdogs.
No
One
wonder why I'm struggling. You became the fan then.
Yeah, exactly. After them,
Now I found the reason.
yeah. So I think so. That's one problem area, that they are underdogs, and they have the right fighting spirit most of the times, right? And so the problem areas that we identify for Arsenal as a team, to me, is that they they haven't been able to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You know much more about them than I do. That they haven't been able to pay enough to retain players, pay enough to buy, really amazing players
Yeah.
across the board, and you know, therefore haven't been able to, have been out competed by people
Yeah.
like Chelsea and all of the other clubs, the Manchesters, uh,
Yeah.
just because of that one capability. So that's one. Obviously, there are exceptions to that as well. There is it doesn't mean that less funded
Mm.
football teams aren't really making their impact, but like that
Yeah.
seems to be one major problem area for them, right?
So you
And
probably build a platform to help them scout better players probably and effectively use their
yeah.
funds
So
better.
there are two ways in which we can do this in my mind. One is the Arsenal Academy itself,
Yeah.
figuring out a way, or like some products, or some capabilities, so that uh, we give a good incentive, and we invest better in rising talent rather than uh,
Mm.
picking up talent from across. That will be, that will show colors in the longer term, so it won't be like
Yeah.
a quick win sort of a thing, right? So this means that you will invest a lot of money in the academy, train players. The players will be better integrated, would work well together, and
Yeah.
eventually rise up to become great footballers, and
Mm.
people that Arsenal can then eventually lease. But this is like longer term, of course. As a product manager, you have to think about both solutions. So there need to be some sort of a short term solution as well. So I don't know. The problem statement here is raising enough funds so that you can buy big players, right?
Yeah.
So Arsenal has a couple of unique things that they can figure out a way to merchandise. They can ride on the Web3 NFT wave.
Yeah.
And create some really cool memorabilia. The plans are going to go gaga.
That's actually an
Oh,
amazing idea. Yeah.
yeah, go gaga over these things. So drop NFTs, mint a lot of money, and
Yeah.
do your next superstar, one or two superstar acquisitions.
Yeah. I hope Arsenal Football Club listens into this.
Oh yeah. I think you and I will be one of the first in line to buy one NFT from
Mm.
Arsenal at least.
How is I know you're a recent father. I think it's
Yeah,
probably been a year. How is
yeah,
father treating you? This is a different phase of a different product, I would say. This is
yeah,
your
yeah,
byproduct.
yeah, absolutely. So Uh,
Mm.
my daughter is now about to turn 14 months. So her
Nice.
name is Orica.
Hmm.
So obviously, having her in our lives has really changed it for the better, of course. And
Hmm.
for there have been sleepless nights and all of those things that come with being a parent. But like, there is a reward at the end of it, just to see her smile and see her grow and talk and interact with everyone in the family. So yeah,
Nice.
so I mean, there's no, I mean, of course there are books and articles and everything you can read, follow doctors advices, but at the end of the day, every child is different, so you have to
Yeah.
essentially uh, play it by the ear more often
Yeah.
than not, right? And there's this constant battle between us and our parents. They have raised us in a certain way. Now we
Yeah.
think about raising a child in a completely different way. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, we try to do what is best for her, Monica. So,
Nice. Amazing. So I'm just
so
going to come to my last
very
set of questions. This is going to be
yeah.
rapid fire. You have to just
Oh,
choose one option
mm,
very,
okay,
very quick. Okay.
okay.
Uh, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Beer or coffee?
Nervous. Beer.
Morning person or night person?
Night person.
Beaches or mountains?
Beaches.
Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter?
Lord of the Rings, any day.
Friends or Big Bang Theory?
Friends.
And the last one's going to be really tricky. Taza Pay or Capital Float?
Ooh, very tough one. I'll just go with Tata Pay.
I
I'll go with
purposely, purposely put this at the end just to
Tata.
make it a bit interesting. Love, I know it's very, very hard to cover 10 plus years of experience and a lot more of your story within 30 minutes. But this is my attempt to
No,
also
that
just
was
get.
amazingly planned, Beauty. Thanks a lot. By the way,
Now,
none of these questions were scripted, guys. So
so I just
it's
want to
a
get,
lot of surprises.
yeah, I want to get a little bit of everyone's story out there.
Yeah,
Uh, and I want your team to get to know you better, potential people in the future get to know you better.
awesome.
Wish you all the best. Hopefully our paths also cross again.
Of course, of course.
It was my privilege that you were part of Capital Float, and we've got
Yeah,
a few years to work together. We built some amazing products over a period of time.
right.
I've learned a lot from you. It's been my honor.
Likewise, Yuti, likewise, it's been an honor being part of your team and your journey.
Yeah,
Uh, uh, so thanks a lot for arranging this as well. This is an amazing initiative, and I'm hoping that this catches on and a lot of people learn from my story and the story of others who have been a part of your journey. So this is
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be an amazing take on product management.
Cool. Love, thank you so much for your time. I, until we meet, it'll be great to connect again soon. So
Yes,
whenever
yes,
you're in
yes.
Bangalore, please ping me. Yeah.
Of course, of course.